Hello again, Dave.
Now it's 5:40.
Now that we're not please holding for pants, we're ready to go.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go. Please hold for you time. Okay, it's like the Siler days. We have guest voices. Yes, we do. And you got them all queued up?
Oh, well, technically, yes. We're just going to put a pause and I'll insert them later.
Okay, we're not going to try and fool anybody here.
We're gonna use the beauty of editing.
Okay, so the first one is George Peter Gatsis.
Hey Dave, it's George Peter Gatsis. I just thought it'd be a good gag to respond back to you in voice because you asked the question in voice. I did respond back to Eddie's email, and it's highly detailed. I think enough for you to say yes to it. Just wanted to let you know. Here's my voice response to your question. Yes. Well, everything that you asked for, I'm already doing it. I've been doing it with my partner, R.J. Carter, Critical Blast Publishing. We've been doing it for the last 5 years now. Printing multiple books, multiple creators, splitting up multiple talents, contributors per book in terms of payments and all that stuff. It's a wonderful thing. And talk to Eddie, review the email I sent you, and get back to me. That's it. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you, George. And moving on from there, we've got Dan F.
Hello, Dave. This is Daniel F., short for Daniel Fonaz. I was listening to the latest Please Hold for Dave Sim, and very appreciative that you answered my question about the Off-White House tour options for the Cerebus Archive Kickstarters. And I did a little bit of research, so I did confirm from the last time that the Off-White House tour was claimed. That was by Gabe in 2018. That was from the $900. Matt said that same thing in the podcast. So using usinflationcalculator.com, adjusting for inflation for current currency in 2024, $900 equates to $1,112.25. I still think that's a very fair price for a Dave hanging out with Dave and doing the Off-White House tour. So I think it'd be really cool starting with the next Cerebus Archive Kickstarter for guys and for Narutobus, if you did offer that. I think that'd be really cool. I don't want to make any promises that I would immediately be hopping onto that offer. It would be a pretty big commitment for me, especially since I'd be coming from Alaska and I'd have to take time off work. And that would actually be, if I did that, that would be my first time in Canada. But I'd definitely consider that if you offered that with the next Cerebus Archive Kickstarter. So, yep, there's the info. And, yeah, if you need anything, if you need any more info, feel free to call me back.
This could get to be a trend.
Makes life easier for us. Less to read.
Please hold for everybody else. We're going out for a snack and a coffee. Okay, speaking of Siler, it's your turn. Sure, that's the ticket. It's your turn to remember Jeff. Yeah, I remember Jeff. I remembered him real good. Why, I'd say nobody has ever remembered Jeff like I did. Yeah, that's what happened. I bet I get an award at the end of the year for how well I remember Jeff. Anyway, your go. And thank you, Matt. I've been trying to distill this for probably about 6 months now. So here's my best off the top of my head. Remembering Jeff and trying to relate this to all of the earlier references of things that I found unusual about Jeff. The number of phone messages that he would leave for me. The fact that he got into the whole why did I name my cat Yusuf, and that was a Cat Stevens reference, and referencing the karaoke bar that he used to go to, and it's all of this stuff seemed to be to me pointing in one direction, which mentally I have no problem with saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the direction. Explaining it is another matter entirely, but it really does hinge on the pagan comic book world addressing the monotheistic Dave Sim comic book world. Jeff, I think he believed in God, but he wasn't. He was definitely not an observant believer in God. He didn't observe a Sabbath. He didn't read scripture. He had gone to Oral Roberts University, and had actually gone to the morning sessions where you got addressed by Oral Roberts, which pretty significant stuff. But it's not something that he carried with him later in life. So it was always this strange kind of Jeff having this attitude of you and me, Dave. We're on the same page, sort of thing. And it's like, well, not really, Jeff. In the ways that I find most significant, and monotheism is definitely the most significant. We couldn't be on more different pages, as far as I'm concerned. But it's I understand that you, Jeff Seiler, don't think that way, and that's fine. But as long as you, Jeff Seiler, understand that I do think that way, the same as Jeff wanting to consider us friends, and it's like, well, having been canceled, I know the difference that there is no such thing as friendship. Everybody will throw you under the bus in the feminist age if they have to throw you under the bus. And it's like, that's also a thing that I take in stride, and that I'm aware that that's just how things are going to go if it comes time to cancel Dave Sim yet again. But so all of this was just sort of like alerting me to, I don't know why this is, but this definitely seems to be something. And it seemed to link to Neil Gaiman, who lived in the Minneapolis area before Jeff did. It's like Jeff was moving into that context after Neil Gaiman moved out of that context. And again, the paganism versus monotheism thing, I went, okay, all of this seems to have gotten up ahead of steam when Alan Moore came to prominence in the late 1980s. And definitely Alan Moore wasn't just not a monotheist kind of pagan. He was a full-bore pagan. When you decide that instead of believing in God, you're going to believe in a Roman snake god, that's definitely a different brand of paganism. And then Alan Moore begat Neil Gaiman, and Neil Gaiman's brand of paganism with Sandman and the Endless. If they're endless, and we're going to assume that dreaming is endless, and death is endless, it always exists, then, the compelled inference is, isn't that a form of immortality? And as a form of immortality, doesn't that qualify as deistic? And it's like, well, I can understand that seems that way to you, and it's certainly an argument that I didn't share or have very much interest in the late 1980s or early 1990s. But no, I don't think things that are endless qualities of physical existence qualify as gods. That's the thing that's warned about in the Quran, joining gods with God. But I do understand that there are a lot of people that do that, and foremost, Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman among them. And then it seemed to me, because I was old, having my attention being called to this, that this was constituting some sort of negotiation on the part of comic book pagans that at some point we're going to have this conversation with Dave Sim, and Dave Sim will have to be forced to admit that we're all the same. We're all the same boat. We're all in this together. And it's like, no. By the time I had read the Bible and the Quran and was fasting in Ramadan, which is the late 1990s, no, those are very, very different things. And then I sent Neil Gaiman essentially, excuse me, Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore begat Rick Veitch, where, okay, if you don't want to acknowledge Neil Gaiman as the Sandman, as the Master of Dreams, as Joseph in Genesis, and as Joseph in Surah 12 in the Quran, and you're also on a different page from these mainstream guys. Alan Moore was a mainstream guy who did occasional visits to independent comics. Neil Gaiman was a mainstream guy with dabbling in independent comics. Again, it's being on a different page. So then what got extruded was Rick Veitch, who started as an indie comics guy and, in fact, arguably an underground comics guy, then became a mainstream guy when he took over Swamp Thing from Alan Moore, and then extruded into indie comics with Rarebit Fiends. And doesn't this qualify as something that's definitely, if I can't see eye to eye in terms of belief systems with Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman, what about Rick Veitch? Because he's not doing a fiction about dreams, he's doing actual dreams. So isn't that another level of actuality, even closer to objective reality and monotheism? And it's like, again, no. In my frames of reference, I really don't see it that way. I understand that you see it that way. I understand that you really, really, really want me to see it that way, but I don't see it that way. And then this all seemed to come to a conclusion last year when Rick Veitch sends me his work. He sends me the collected Rarebit fiends and sends me the Heroica books when he brings them back into print, and when he gets new stories done with his Superman knockoff. Why am I drawing a blank on that? What's his Superman analog?
Max Immortal.
Max Immortal. Thank you. Yes, and Boy Max Immortal more recently, and The Last Day had come back into print, which has the lengthy preamble, basically fusing monotheism and science, which is the best I can do. In terms of there's verifiable science, and I don't think it's at odds with monotheism, and here's why I don't think it's at odds with monotheism. And Rick sent me, I think, the latest volume of Boy Max Immortal, and I sent him back The Last Day, and got a rare letter from him, basically saying, right, yes, this is what the alchemists and the great thinkers of the ages call the demiurge. And it's like, well, no, I don't think I'm talking about the demiurge here. I'm talking about God and YHWH. And that compelled me to sit down and go, okay, it's now 35 years since the Northampton Summit, where we put together the Creators Bill of Rights. And at that time, I was going, okay, I don't really know why Rick Veitch is here, apart from the fact that he came out of underground comics and did indie comics. He's a mainstream guy, but Steve Bissett really wanted him there, so okay, Rick Veitch is there. We'll see what he has to say. So I wrote to Rick what I thought was probably the best summing up of the situation that I could do, which was saying, I'm writing this letter to you, but I think this is a letter that you could be writing to me, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not summing this up correctly, but basically saying, I'm always interested in your work. I never think that your work should be banned or in any way canceled in the comic book field. And I will always send you my work. But I have to say that I think your ideas have zero validity. And it's like, I was hoping the fact that I'm saying, okay, I think we're saying this on both sides would mean, okay, I'm not insulting you any more than you're insulting me. I don't intend to insult you, and I don't intend to insult your beliefs. I'm just saying that I don't think they have any validity, and I realize that that's what you think looking at my idea. And it was like I got that done, and sent it off in the mail with the latest Cerebus in Hell, whatever that was, and went, okay, having 35 years of all of this, we're not getting anywhere in this discussion, but I do sense this urgency on the other side of the volleyball net to really, really intensively, maintain this and always have somebody else getting in Dave Sims' face about this. I think that pretty well settles it. I hope that Rick will continue to send me his work, and if he does send me his work, I'll always send them whatever I've just had published most recently. And I went, okay, well, if metaphysics is going to produce any outcome out of this, it's probably going to produce an outcome out of this. And literally the next day, I went to the place where I buy my newspapers every Monday and Wednesday. I buy the Waterloo Region Record and the Toronto Sun, and on Wednesday I buy the Waterloo Region Record and the Toronto Sun and the International Express from England. And I went in and grabbed my Waterloo Region Record and my Toronto Sun, and I was paying for them. And I have to say that I've been going to this place buying my newspapers for years now, probably a decade, and I've never seen anybody else buy a newspaper. There's really just like a handful of newspapers there because newspapers have just, completely died as a vehicle of communication for most people. The guy that owns the place, Pete, says, I used to bring in a good 20, 25 pounds of newspapers every morning, and now, they all fit in one little rolled up package that's maybe an inch thick, and that includes the racing form. So I was paying for my newspapers, and he goes, "This guy's buying the same thing, the Toronto Sun and the Waterloo Region Record." I thought, that's wildly implausible. The guy behind me in line, that the Waterloo Region Record is extreme left wing, thinks it's middle of the road, and the Toronto Sun is extreme right wing and thinks it's middle of the road. I couldn't picture anybody in Kitchener that would buy both of those. And I turn around and look at the guy, and he's my age or maybe older, and he literally has a bandage on his head with a giant swelling visible under the bandage and blood trickling out of it. And I went, oh, come on. All I did was state the basic facts. I did not do this to Rick Veitch. I did not do this to Neil Gaiman. And I did not do this to Alan Moore. But there you go. Enactments are enactments. So, I paid for my newspapers. The guy behind me paid for his newspapers. He's walking out behind me. And I said to him, what does the other guy look like? And he didn't really say anything, which is unusual. A guy my age usually knows, if you've got a visible wound of some kind on you, a black eye or something like that, that's a guy joke to another guy joke, which is, what does the other guy look like? So we didn't really exchange any more pleasantries, but I went my way, he went his way. And then I've been seeing him constantly since then. Never saw him before, but now, as I said to him, I see you more than I saw my parents when they were alive. And finally went, okay, at some point I've got to ask him, what's your name? And I'm going to go, if it's Alan or Neil or Rick, then I'm not going to be surprised, but I'm certainly curious as to which one of those three this ridiculous histrionic display has manifested. So, like I said, I see you more than I saw my parents when they were alive. What's your name? And his name was Barry. And I went, Well, there you go. Because there's only one Barry in that category, as far as I'm concerned, and there you go. It's I look at Barry Windsor Smith the same way, which is if Barry ever sent me a piece of his work, he used to send me his work, but if he ever sent me a piece of his work, I would be very, very interested in reading it, although I don't share his beliefs. He's definitely got a lot more experience with very, very unusual metaphysical occurrences, which anybody who's read Opus knows that. But again, you get to the point where there's nothing to be said. Barry, if you don't choose God, you're choosing YHWH or Satan or whatever name you want to attach to it, or the demiurge, if you're Rick Veitch. I would hope that I would always be interested in reading your work, and I would hope that you would always be interested in reading my work, and that we would never want the other guy or his work to be canceled or made illegal or anything like that. So there you go. That's what I've been trying to condense in Remembering Jeff, and it's one of those monotheism versus paganism things. It's not as if I don't understand the other side of the argument. I was a devout atheist for the first 40 years of my life, but now that I'm over here on this side of the volleyball net, it's no, I don't see there being a Alan Moore style bridge between worlds, or isn't the endless the same thing as God's? No, once you're over here, you're over here.
Well, I was going to say, I got years ago at Space, there was a guy that was selling refrigerator magnets of one-panel comics. And I bought a bunch of them because there were a bunch of them that were really funny. And one of my favorites that I still have, it's 4 monks, and one guy's got a clipboard and the other 3 are lined up, and it's a vow of silence for Brother Mark, a vow of poverty for Brother Luke, and yet another vow of chastity for Brother Vince. And Brother Vince has this ear-to-ear grin. And it's one of the, I bought it because it was funny, but then when Jeff was talking about, you and he were, partners in celibacy, and you were like, no, Jeff, there's a difference between celibacy and not getting any. And that was one of the times where Jeff was, I don't understand why Dave doesn't see it the way I see it. It's like, Jeff, it's not a club, it's not a race, it's not, the two of you against the world type thing. It's Dave's beliefs, and you're just not getting any. And everybody had kind of talked to him about, and then it was one of those, for like 6 months, Jeff was not necessarily on a high horse about it, but he, it would come up, and then he got some, and it was, I understand what Dave was saying now. It's like, okay, we told you this 6 months ago, Jeff.
There's celibacy and there's not getting laid. Yeah. Okay. Moving on from there, and it'll be your turn to remember Jeff next time.